and welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. My name is Ryan Hamann. You can call me H.
And I'm Ryan Quintal. You can call me Q.
I've had all day today. Do you ever have this? I don't know if it has a name or anything, but like when your eyelash feels like it's tangled on something and you just feel it all day long.
Let me give you a content warning for anybody who's not into gross eye stuff. But I once saw an eye doctor and they were convinced I needed to start taking drops to reduce pressure in my eye and combat long-term glaucoma. I've since seen two other doctors that have said, no, you're good. Plus, the way that pressure relieving eye drops work, if you start using them now, you can never get off them and their effectiveness goes down over time. So you have to keep jacking up it's like a drug. You got to keep getting on that new stuff. I started using these drops per recommendation of the doctor, and I learned that one of the side effects is extra eyelashes start to grow.
Whoa.
And not weird. Like full new sets rather, but just, one-off lashes. They just kind of get a little thicker or whatever. And I had to go back to the eye doctor to have him remove an eyelash that was growing the opposite way, like towards my eye. And so it felt like it was scratching it constantly. So I know exactly that feeling because I had it for like 2 months. I thought I was going crazy. I thought it was like the lone person in a horror movie who's being tormented from a ghost or something.
You go to a doctor for help. He ends up giving you 40 lashes instead. That's no good.
That's right. Yeah. So not on that stuff. If you ever, if you're ever prescribed latanoprost, which is that eye pressure relieving thing, make sure to double check your side effects before you just start squirting that stuff in your eyeballs every day.
It's a good lesson we can take with us.
Yeah. So did you get it out?
No, I don't know. It just, eyelashes still feel like they're all tangled and weird, but I don't know. Nothing I can really do about that. Need a really tiny comb, I think.
Do you ever think about that old Ben Stein Clear Eyes commercials that were on all the time?
Yeah, I remember those.
Where you would just like dump water on like a beach ball and all the like red veins would go. Those stand out in my mind. It's so strange.
He's a talented performer, and then he just kind of disappeared. I wonder whatever happened to him.
Yeah,
Maybe he pulled a Rick Moranis and decided, like, I've had enough. I've made a good career for myself. Time to just retire and stay out of the public's eye, so to speak.
I think I also do remember, like, at some point him, I think in the modern context, if Ben Stein was just a little bit younger, he would have transitioned into, like, Fox News economist, from what I understand.
Okay.
So I think maybe Hollywood was like, maybe we're a little bit done with Ben.
All right, fair enough. Let's get to some video game pitches. I'll be going first today. What we're going to be starting with is an alchemy-like game. Have you ever played Doodle God on the phone?
I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
I kind of like these little games. They're you just kind of like, you start with two rudimentary elements and then you combine them and they create something else. Then you can combine that with the rudimentary element and it creates a third thing. And then you just kind of like keep combining the elements until eventually you have the entirety of the world. And it gets into buildings and abstract concepts and people and animals and dinosaurs and like all this stuff. And essentially you're just creating everything in the world from, the very smallest of pieces, and combining. And it is always kind of clever in the way it does it too, like you would combine like a gosh, Edith, when I'm on the spot here, like a falcon and a razor blade, and you would get like a vulture, like a bald bird, essentially. It's stuff like that, where it's like, okay, I see the logic there. It's kind of fun. So anyways, I'm trying to think a little bit more abstractly, a little bit more kind of point and click adventure logic. And basically, you're in a room and you have to create specific objects, and you can look around the room, and then any item in that room you can break apart into component pieces and recombine them in any combination. And so maybe pieces can break apart multiple times. Maybe a candle would give you like wax and string, and then you can use that to combine to create something else. And I think there's, funnier combinations. I'd like it if they were kind of like jokey type of answers, like in Psychonauts Rhombus of Ruin, there's a little section where you do something kind of like this. And you break apart a cow and it turns into like horns and a leather jacket, if I remember correctly. But it's kind of goofy. But so that's what I want to do. Anyways, you're trying to create specific objects using what you have around you. And I'm going to start the clock.
I like this, and I do like, I feel like we've talked about something similar before and like breaking things down. It may have been like a modification of Minecraft or something, but the idea of getting something into its core elements and building it back up, but like a little bit with the twist of it, maybe it's for a gag, which I think is funny. Like, can you take a cat and get like fur and nails? From it, and then I just like the idea of like, you know, nothing bad happened to the cat. The cat just kind of disappears, and poof, you've got like a tail, fur, and nails or something, and teeth. Actually, you can
always recombine them into the cat if you want to.
That's right. All right,
nothing's permanent.
That's your cat recipe. So are you? I understand that Doodle God, from the looks of it, has something of a recipe book. So are you kind of making and tracking these recipes as you go?
Potentially. Maybe everything is kind of memorable enough to where you don't need like a big complicated book. But, you know, I mean, it could be kind of traced in like a family tree. It would get complicated though, because everything is kind of combining with everything else. I would want it to be, you know, in Doodle God, once you create smoke, let's say, then you can use smoke with literally every other object that you have. Like, I'd like everything to be kind of physical in a way that if you create string, you have one piece of string, you can attach it to something else, you can break it apart later, but you can't just keep kind of throwing it at everything.
One of the things I do in my head, I'm imagining, is that you go into kind of a room with a goal, and maybe the goal is really big. Like you go into a room and it's a bedroom or something, and you're like, you have to get it ready for your kid's birthday party or something like that. And you're like, okay, well, maybe the blankets on the bed I can get cloth out of, and then if I can get cloth plus a stick or something, I can make a puppet. So you actually like end the state of each level with like the goal of creating an array of objects that pay off a certain goal.
This would be kind of a fun concept to be a magician at like a child's birthday party. And the first level is kind of you performing the show and, doing whatever it is that needs to be done. And then like, I don't know, maybe you find that you're locked in, so you have to find a way out, or maybe there's a robbery and you have to, like different situations that this magician might find himself in that kind of raise the stakes continually.
Yeah, the idea of you can kind of go around presto changeoing everything. As we break things down, I'm wondering if there's like a limit of sorts. Like you said, you don't want someone just throwing something at it, so maybe things can only be broken down so many times, or once you've added something to an object, if it doesn't transform that object, the material maybe is like used and that affects it in some way. Maybe you lose it. I don't want to necessarily just take away tools and discourage experimentation, but I'm wondering how we set limits on that adventure game, sort of, I'm going to grab this and hover over everything in my inventory sort of feeling.
Yeah, maybe you can preview what things are going to be before they transform. And that's a way of kind of like allowing you to experiment while still kind of maintaining the scarcity of the objects in a way. So you don't have unlimited strings, but you can view what it's going to transform into before you commit to it. And you don't have to sit through the animation of combining and breaking it apart.
Maybe also by you do kind of like a Legend of Zelda cooking thing, a Breath of the Wild cook thing, where like as you experiment, you become more certain. Mm-hmm. So like if something is unknown, you hover, you drag the object over something else and you're like, oh, this results in question mark cloud. I don't know. It'll become something, or it'll fail spectacularly. But as you do experiment, you're like, no, you get that sort of, have I tried this combination before? And you can check with that sort of hover, but it'll be like, that makes whatever, a toy ball or something like that. Or I know I'm going into toys a lot, but I do like the idea of like, how would one construct stairs from like a bookshelf? You know, I don't know if that's the type of fundamental level you want to do, but it's like still two like objects.
I think there is kind of lost my train of thought there.
I'm just thinking like I could construct stairs out of the exact same materials as a bookshelf, but maybe, you know, for the comedy, for the wackiness, you know, you need.
Yeah, right. I think that there's a fun moment of the reveal of, you know, maybe something isn't going to turn into what you expected it to. And instead it's, you know, kind of like Scribblenauts had that kind of thing as well, where you'd type in a word and then you press the button and then the magic poof. And then behind it was hopefully what you asked for, but every once in a while it was something. It's like, okay, that's a I
see what you did there.
Yeah, that's kind of a clever way to spin my words against me.
That's interesting. I do wonder if I'm taking on the role of a magician who can like change objects or whatever. Is there an angle of an add in an element to it? In the same way that like Doodle God has like the archetypes of, you know, land and water and all this sort of stuff. I wonder if like the magician themselves can put a tilt of like, you know, add in a fancy poof or, you know, or a utility poof. And like, so you actually turn down the number of materials, but you use the sort of extra spell power or whatever at the end to kind of find your way into it, but also like give yourself that extra level of articulation of like, this is not just wax plus a string. This is wax plus a string plus, you know, fire or heat or something, or maybe it's just like visibility or something.
Yeah, you know, we kind of risk overcomplicating things in what's supposed to be a pretty kind of simple and approachable type of idea. I like games like Katamari where everything is just so kind of like
is what it is.
It takes such like joy in just like the mundanity of the objects around you, and you know, using those kind of very ordinary objects to create extraordinary scenarios. And same with Everything, which Double Fine published.
Do you think you could get more into the space of a generative game where you say, here's a room full of stuff and your goal is to make a puppet? You know, here's a room full of stuff and your goal is to make a Rube Goldberg device. Here's a room full of stuff and you're trying to make I don't know, like a dinner table or something like that, and actually give people a target creation as the end state rather than an abstract goal. You're like, okay, you're here to make a windmill, and then you're like, well, it's all pillows. What am I going to do here?
Yeah, you know, I think this would work well as kind of a escape room type of scenario. I do like somewhat abstract goals, or at least some that could have open-ended or multiple solutions. You know, I love those types of games where it asks you a question, you think that it's asking for one thing, you look around and you can't find it, and then you realize later, like, oh, you know what? I could also do that with a golf club. That's a funny kind of play on words to meet the requirement.
So like puns could technically count.
Yeah, sure.
I like that. It's like a basket case. Or basketball is just like, a ball inside of a wicker basket or something.
Or you can combine a basket and a ball and it could turn into one of those kind of like, you know, wicker ornaments, but that counts towards the goal.
Yeah, or maybe just like a basket plus a ball actually gives you a basketball. And so you get like that.
Yeah, true.
I do like the idea of using that like very cursory, obviously ridiculous, but comedic logic to assemble things. Like if you can get a telephone and like a mannequin head and it turns into headphones or something like that. And, you know, you're almost asked to look at the objects in the room, both in their actual utility, but then also in their name, you know, in just in like take the objects as they are from a description standpoint.
Let's call that one there and let's give it a name.
I feel like it should be one of these good puns.
Right. The character's name could be Splitting Atom. It's a bit of a walk.
Atom splitting?
Like splitting the atom, like what a bomb would do. Yeah.
I do like something that like the magical magician atom splitting or something like that. What if the game was called something like Bread Box? It was literally a loaf of bread inside of a cardboard box or something like that.
Bread box. What is that? Does that have a meaning that pertains to?
No, I'm just thinking of like a container for something, but also something that is just like two semi-unrelated words but make up a new object. Like if doorbell, and then it was like literally a bell, but an old doorbell was a bell over a door, so it doesn't really work. I guess a bread box is technically a box of bread.
You could just name the magician like the Great Combini or something. It's a little hacky.
The Great Combini. Yes. And it looks like Combini on the cover.
Yeah. It's very master of disguise. I think that'll get us closer than
the Great Combini. It feels good.
That'll do. All right. What do you have for us today?
So my pitch today is it is potentially a kitchen-based game, but I think we can kind of have fun with it. But I like the idea of the health inspector, or somebody who is out to find, that 1 inch of a room or a space that someone forgot to clean. Obviously it translates well into going into various kitchens and finding what's gross, but it could be for any setting. And I do like the idea of getting some kind of score at the end that is based on you having to give this room or business or whatever a grade from the faux health department, and then patrons start filing in and you find out how many of them get sick, and that's your scoring system.
All right, starting the clock. So this is interesting. I mean, it sounds very mundane on the surface, but would you want to take this in a simulator way, where you're kind of using realistic tools, and even if it is one of those kind of silly or physics-driven simulation type games, or would you want this to be kind of an arcadey, overcooked, scrub every surface and use, silly over-the-top tools to find the germs or whatever it is? How are you envisioning?
Almost imagine a pre-planning UI before you go into a business, and you have to decide what you're going to take with you. Almost like a phasmophobia, if you will. You're like, okay, on this mission, I'm going to take 3 pairs of white gloves. I'm going to take, 1 black light or UV light to see splatters and that sort of stuff. And maybe, a mouse trap or something to potentially try and catch a rodent. And then, or my pack of mouse traps or whatever. And then you go into these kitchens. This is either while people are working. So maybe I think one thing that most simulator games really stay away from, because it's so difficult to pull off and demanding, is just this feeling of like there are actually other people in the world who are trying to work around you and do their jobs as you yourself are kind of navigating these spaces. But I like the idea of the verbs also being, touch something or check the temperature of something or lift things up, look underneath things, like try and, tilt something over, see if anything spills out, that sort of, all the kind of gross things that we've, that maybe you've seen if you've ever watched one of these kind of, restaurants not doing a good job shows.
So you're picking kind of a loadout before you go.
Yeah.
Would this be reliant on having multiple people to perform a thorough inspection? I think about, like, if it is just kind of random, the restaurant you end up going to, you don't have the proper tools to detect everything. It doesn't really feel like you lost due to your own merits. You're kind of randomly guessing what the restaurant's going to need and then either getting it right or getting it wrong.
Well, I guess it depends on if you're on a time crunch. If there's a time and there's like a round or whatever, then I do see it could kind of be fun to do a multiplayer thing. But I do like the idea, right, of having archetypes of restaurants or something to go to. What I suspect when I watch some of these shows where they go into people's kitchens and they're like, this is disgusting, you're letting raw chicken be next to cooked chicken, all this sort of stuff. What occurs to me in my mind as I try and look through the artifice of the show is that surely someone who owns and operates restaurants, I'm using Gordon Ramsay as my example here, knows exactly, and has worked in restaurants, knows exactly all the terrible places that a restaurant is probably not always paying the closest attention to. So I like the idea of becoming this better and better health inspector by learning, like, oh yeah, everybody always forgets to clean the freezer downstairs or whatever. So I'm going to go look at that, see if you can, in one of these inspection passes, rack up as many violations as you can. And maybe at the end you'd be like, you caught, 25 out of 30 violations or something like that.
And people are trying to clean around you as well. And so maybe trying to get to dirty stations before they do, so you can take your samples of grease buildup.
Oh, I like that. So you actually have to like obtain proof. I feel like we've gotten a little Phoenix Wright with it too, which is fun. It's like objection.
Yeah, right.
Objection, or filthy. You get to claim everything's dirty. Yeah, I like that. And then the idea of, or maybe like it's more Pokemon Snap, and you actually just have like one very slow pass through a restaurant, but it's on rails, and you got to kind of like tag all the areas that you want your team to investigate or to clean behind you. All the places you tag to investigate, like as you look behind you, people are furiously scrubbing away and like fixing all the things you told them to fix. And then like at the end you find out what you did or what you missed. But I also like the idea of like get that Pokemon Snap layer of interaction where you can knock something over to see if it's if it's got some gross liquid inside, or you can, quickly shine a UV light and you've only got a couple seconds of battery. So you're like turning it off and trying to use it multiple times in a run and that sort of stuff.
Is there a consequence for knocking things over and moving things around? Obviously it's annoying to them, but is that kind of systemically recognized somehow?
Well, if you're the health inspector, boss, I don't think this is not true, but I don't know how much the restaurant owner could do about it. But I do like the idea of there being a limit to your power, in a way of like, you can only cause destruction or a fuss once, in the same way that you can only open a fridge. Like if you forget to move the first layer of boxes on the shelf, you'll never find the dead rat behind there or something.
What if you move too much? Is there a risk of upsetting some kind of balance?
Like kitchen efficiency or something like that?
But that's the thing, is like, as outside inspectors, like, do we really care about kitchen efficiency? I think about like,
right.
I don't want to be those, the cops that come into somebody's house and completely trash it as they're doing their inspection, I
wonder, maybe there's, I'm thinking of, I know I'm just layering mechanics into this thing, but I'm also thinking about that Moonlighter mechanic where you're seeing like an emoji face come out of the people who are shopping at your store. And I do like the idea of like a little meter of just how pissed off the restaurant owner is at you. And so you can't actually push it too far. If you push it in the red too far, then like you have like a significant cooldown period or something. So if you piss off the restaurant owner too much too soon, then the next 10 seconds you're actually without any of your abilities and you can't call anything out. So maybe it's more of a soft lock of like you really have to be picky and choosy with what you can't just like tag everything and be like, it's all gross, let's clean it all. You really have to like manage the patience of the restaurant owner.
So then we call our inspection complete whenever it is, or whenever we run out of time potentially, and the restaurant opens. We are graded on how many people get sick.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I simplified it just down to like, you found X out of Y violations or whatever, and it just leaves you with the feeling of like, God, what did I miss? And you take a second pass at the level and you're like, okay, well, I think I found a couple new ones, but I got a little lax early on. And then eventually when you get to the upper limit of them, it is a really careful management game of like, okay, I know I've got 6 violations around here somewhere, and I only have budget for these 6 before the restaurant owner goes nuts. So I better make sure all of them are the exact right call.
Right. Okay. Let's go ahead and call that one, and let's give it a name.
I wonder if...
How about Burger Clean? It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Burger Clean is bad and good. I like Burger Clean quite a bit.
Dairy Clean also works as well, but I don't think it quite... And it puts a different picture in the mind, I think, you know?
Burger Clean.
A lot of royalty fast food restaurants.
Yeah, I do like Burger Clean, but as long as there's the Italian restaurant level and the steakhouse level and all these different levels, I think we'll be good.
Cool. And they all have like silly names like the Outhouse Steakhouse and
yeah. The barbecue place. Oh, that place is going to be riddled.
Liver Garden. All right, let's go to the community. I saw you soliciting pitches before we started recording. Did you get anything?
I got one.
All right, cool.
Well,
what do we have for us today?
For us this week.
Spam, eggs, and spam is our usual diet here on Playwright.
That's right. This write-in comes from Jim, who is a listener. Thank you very much, Jim. Jim writes, I've always wanted to see a game that's Bridge Builder-esque. And have you played the Bridge Builder games, H? Because I haven't.
I've played, I think I played a little bit of them when they were like Flash games before they became standalone downloads. And then I have played more World of Goo. But I don't know if I've ever really sat down with like one of the full Bridge Constructor releases.
Okay, so I have played World of Goo, so that'll give me a reference here. I've always wanted to see a game that's Bridge Builder-esque, but for traffic control. So placing street lights, cones, stop signs, one-ways, etc., live traffic flow as you go. And he has a suggested name, but I will withhold that till the end of the pitch.
I like this. Let's go ahead and start the clock there. The only other kind of like point of reference that I can think of, I mean, there's a few actually. There's the
mini motorways.
Mini motorways is one of the big ones. You know, you can drag out all the roads and buildings pop up and homes pop up, and basically you don't know where the buildings, these kind of business buildings, or where the homes are going to land, and so you're trying to kind of build the roads around the buildings and create kind of efficient funnels of traffic. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes you find one particular intersection is bearing a very heavy load and is backing up in all directions and causing a huge traffic jam. One of the tools that you can get is a traffic light system that you can place in any intersection. And I've never really noticed it making a big difference in my town. And it might just come down to me not fully like coming to grips with it, but I feel like I'm pretty good at mini motorways these days. Like I've played quite a bit of that game, and I find it very relaxing. It's a nice calming experience. I can't get into the swing of anytime I have to choose between the traffic lights and anything else, I always go for the other thing. Whether it's more roads or a freeway. But another one is the City Skylines is based on the Cities in Motion series, which, yes, is a city builder, but had a more kind of direct interest in the flow of traffic within that city. And so there are a lot more tools, that were kind of focused around public transportation and roadways. Yeah, when
you get
and
to the traffic
flow.
management part of City Skylines, you're like, whoa. I didn't expect all this to be in here.
Complex. So cool reference points for further reading, but I am often ridiculed by my partner for obeying crossing signals all of the time. Like even if it's the middle of the night and there's nobody else around, like
really, you're ridiculed for this.
Yeah, because she's just like, if there's nobody coming, then just cross the street. You're only slowing yourself down. But my justification is that
for pedestrian, for walking or driving?
When I'm on foot.
Okay. I was like, that's terrifying.
No, crossing signal, not traffic signals.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, because I feel like somebody has dedicated their entire life's work to figuring out the optimal flow of foot traffic against vehicle traffic. And even if I am able to cross the road, 30 times, without incident, and just once I, misjudge things and end up slowing down somebody who had the right of way, and I'm the asshole walking in the road when it's their turn to go. Like that's one more person that I didn't need to inconvenience because I did the wrong thing, So
I went from being completely appalled at your partner to maybe being on their side. So I'm very excited to get into this.
No, that's okay. I understand. I am in the minority here.
What I think about, and I'm watching some Bridge Constructor gameplay as we talk through this. I do think what's really interesting is I think we've all in pedestrian or driving land encountered sometimes what we would maybe describe as a very creative use of cones, where you're like, what are they even trying to block off here, and control the direction of. And cones are really, they're interesting because they almost have like an area of effect, right? Where like if there's too big of a gap, someone will perceive that as an absolute pass-through zone, which you might be trying to gate them from. But the idea of playing with the idea of like people's pedestrian perception as a measure of like cone distance plus he doesn't mention it here, but I do love a good flag person or a good like traffic signaler.
This could be kind of a funny situation of like cars that I like those funny physicsy cars games where the cars kind of bounce around all over the place, and maybe they keep going and they keep following the rules of the road until you deviate them, in a way. Like if there's a school just let out and the kids are crossing the road, then you have to plant a stop sign. Maybe you have to pluck a stop sign from somewhere else in the city and plant it in front of the crosswalk. Otherwise the car is just going to kind of absentmindedly plow right through. And if traffic backs up, then the cars are literally bouncing off of each other and steering into the, filling up almost like the flood in the street, And if you forget to, maybe you have to manually turn the lights red to green. And if you forget to do that, then you get like a big pileup of cars behind the stoplight that hasn't turned in a long time.
I do like the idea of, and Jim writes here, live traffic flow as you go, it's far more City Skylines, right? Even though like when you get into a real traffic jam in City Skylines, you can always just delete the road, and sure enough, those cars will they'll return to the ether and find their way back to another traffic situation in the future. But Bridge Constructor seems to have more of a kind of like mini planning phase, and then they're like, now you can kind of go and hit play and like see if the thing plays out. And so I do like the idea of maybe being able to like play in advance traffic, but there is no rewind. So like as you create really bad situations and you find yourself having to pause, you start to feel the pressure building up of like these people who have been waiting in traffic for, first it starts as minutes and then, it's on to hours. And then eventually you've got a complete standstill, and you're just trying to like, every time you hit play, you want to have some level of certainty that you have resolved the path ahead for them, both making it safe, but also making it efficient.
I think there's a certain amount of fun. I love in mini motorways, drawing a new road and watching cars immediately start to take it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can click on any car, see where it wants to go, kind of assume that, okay, a certain percentage of other cars in the area are going to be going to roughly the same area. And then, you can draw your own freeway off-ramp that connects back to a main road, kind of funnel. You watch that car kind of immediately take it and find a quicker way to get to the destination as a way of kind of thinning out the traffic here and there. But having to make sure that the roads actually do meet up with the destination, almost like completing a circuit in a way. Otherwise the car isn't going to go for it. It's all kind of dictated by these Google Maps that are being read aloud in the cars.
Yeah, I actually take really great enjoyment, even though I don't think I've ever really done it super well, but I take a great enjoyment in placing bus stops in City Skylines because I had never encountered, like the way that City Skylines has you do bus stops is you have to plan out a bus route, or route, depending on how you pronounce it. But the feeling of like the bus only travels down the correct lane, and so you think it would be as simple as going from A to B, but then it forces you to consider, like, no, actually, if you wanted to drop someone off on that side of the street, you've got to get the bus going in an entirely different direction. So you end up like potentially looping around blocks or something just to get people keeping the flow of the route going. And it seems like the pitch seems like it's a little bit on a smaller scale with like stop signs, one ways. I'm so curious. I think I know the answer to this, but what do you call the circular pattern that cars have to journey around often to get on or off highways?
I call that a roundabout.
You call that a roundabout. So I hear traffic circle quite a bit.
Yeah.
And in Massachusetts, and I know this is a Massachusetts specific thing, that is a rotary.
Okay.
That's
interesting.
But I love the idea of like, because City Skylines also has those really beautiful, elaborate, 4-leaf clover types of traffic patterns and all of those sort of things. Mini Motorways is a lot more kind of line to line and direct. And while it's nice and smooth, I feel like we've all been on these roads that are a little completely chaotic feeling in a way.
Are you familiar with the Gaming in the Clinton Years videos?
No.
They're videos uploaded by a group called Navigator. It's some sort of a video game award ceremony group. But anyways, they are archives of like a 90s public access show put on by a weird old guy named George Wood. It was very distinctive kind of speech pattern and very, he ran like a long running public access show in which he reviewed video games, but almost uniformly, every opinion is subjective, but there's a certain point where it's like, it's notable that almost all of his opinions were like wrong. Oftentimes his videos would suggest really stupid things or would just be like, they're very strange reviews. They're very like not intentionally, just like unintentionally. Like he would talk about how he would start off a game review as being kind of a holistic review and then spend like 6 minutes of the review basically giving you a step-by-step walkthrough of the first level and stuff like that. And sometimes he'd give you cheat codes to watch the ending cutscene. It's like, what's even going on here? And he would suggest like, he'd make a bunch of weird comments. Like the most famous clip is from his Donkey Kong Country review. He said, if you don't get with this new generation of Donkey Kong madness, you are stupid. It's just like, well, that's not a reviewer phrase. It's not something that, but I mean, and he suggested that the next Tomb Raider after Tomb Raider 2, the developers give Lara Croft breast cancer to make her more relatable, like just crazy, weird, out there, stupid ideas, but immensely entertaining. Just one of those kind of unintentionally comedic, but consistently unintentionally comedic characters that is a real delight. And so my friends and I used to watch those videos a lot in college. We're out of time already, so I don't feel bad about going on a long story. But I had built a GPS voice out of George Wood clips. Because that was something you could do with like certain brands of GPS.
All right, and as he says cheat codes, I'm sure you get all your left and rights in there or whatever.
Yeah, and so there was a bunch of funny like phrases that whenever it did the like recalculating every time you had to make a wrong turn, we would use that "you are stupid" clip because that's what the GPS is really saying to you. Now it just has a polite chime, but back in my day, it used to say recalculating. Whenever we would. Whenever it would direct us onto a freeway ramp, and he would say, drive off the giant ramp. And then my favorite was whenever you would enter a roundabout, he would say, circle around to get behind your enemy.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was fun. I'm still pretty proud of that project. I don't think I have a backup of those files or anything anywhere. So it's just something that'll live on in memory, but highly recommended if people are still out there using programmable GPSs.
I hope we created the next generation of people who are going to make a GPS voice off of what you just said. It would be an honor, wouldn't it?
That would be an unexpected piece of fan art.
Yeah.
Our podcast does not inspire a lot of fan art. I don't think it's been zero. I think we've had Wiggle and Joe art before, but we don't tend to get a lot of artwork. If one of the first things we ever received was a GPS voice, I'd be very surprised.
I would also be very interested I would go to an art exhibit that was like a fake GameStop that only had games on the shelf that we've pitched.
Yeah, I mean,
just somebody make a bunch of fake game covers for all the episodes of the show.
Anyways, out of time, what is the name that was suggested along with that idea?
Jim comes to us with the name Gridlock. Beautiful, straightforward. I love it.
All right. If you would like to submit a new video game idea to us, then you can do so by going to playwrightcast.com/pitch. You can tweet us at playwrightcast, or you can email us playwrightcast@gmail.com. I believe if you submit now, then your pitch will be read on the Christmas episode.
Whoa!
Next, that we'll be recording. You know what? Actually, by the time you hear this, submissions for Christmas episode will be all done. But
oh no,
New Year's then. New Year's Eve.
We'll make sure to ask for Christmas submissions on social media so you don't miss it.
Yeah.
Special thank you to PROTODOME for the use of our theme song, Hello World, off the album Blue Noise. When you're going into the holiday season and you are looking at, hey, maybe I want to play a new game. Maybe I want to play an old game on my new console. What games are the best games to play? Well, you can get some deep dive post-hype game reviews at Canon Rinse. Maybe you can discover your next favorite developer you're going to follow on the Sausage Factory, or you can kick back and listen to the sounds of gaming on Sound of Play.
Beautifully put. Let's get to some redacted game for today. So I have for you, in Redacted, you play as Redacted, a redacted creature living in what he believes is a redacted world, until a strange and powerful redacted reveals to him the existence of a mysterious third redacted.
Ooh, it's another one of these kind of short descriptions.
It's pretty short, yeah.
So what do I know? I'm a character, or there is a character rather, and their world is maybe quaint to them in some way, and somebody comes down and says everything you believe is wrong. And there's a third,
or at least, yeah, there's three of something that, potentially kind of sets them off on their adventure, gives them the prerogative to move forward.
Three things to maybe discover, find, achieve, something like that. Reclaim.
That they were not expecting, a third of these to actually exist.
Gosh, you've given me so many good hints.
I should just kind of be quiet now, right?
yeah, just be quiet, because I'm going to... okay. Okay, my first question is, or my first guess, it's a broad one, but is this maybe you're not allowed to tell me, but is this a character action game?
I'll say no. Typically I don't want to turn this into like a 20 questions type thing,
right,
but I feel like character action is kind of a narrow enough genre where I'm only eliminating like really a handful of games.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, because my brain is going straight into your Crashes and Gexes and that sort of things.
I wouldn't consider those character action though.
Oh,
character
okay.
action
Well, those
is
are like
platformers,
I guess.
Devil May Cry.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. That's fine. Well then don't tell me then. Even though I know I've tried to suss out some stuff there. Read me the description one more time.
In Redacted, you play as Redacted, a redacted creature living in what he believes is a redacted world, until a strange and powerful redacted reveals to him the existence of a mysterious third redacted.
So I'm a male character.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a banjo game?
It's not a banjo game.
Could I get some metadata about this thing? I feel like I need to understand or limit my eras or something.
Yeah, let me pull up that Metacritic again. All right. going on its original release, this was an 89 Metascore with a user score of 6.2. Quite a discrepancy there. I think there might be
critical darling and maybe some naysayers.
Potentially.
Okay.
I think you'll understand when you get it.
Okay. Oh, it's polarizing, is it?
There's an element of polarization going on here.
Sure. Okay. A third world. A third.
You want some reviews?
Yeah. I need some reviews. I think I only meaningfully have one guess left because you've given me a lot.
Okay. This is a 10 review. Simply put, Redacted is my vote for Game of the Year. You need to play this game to understand the depth and genius of its design. It's games like this that revive my faith in the industry and comes as a welcome change. And a 0 says, extremely boring and nothing happens at all times. Also extremely easy. I'm glad I didn't buy this and only played it from a friend's Steam account. This is not a game for a mind that wants challenge, but rather for someone that has enough challenges in real life and only wants a method to unwind. Why does it cost more than 50 cents?
Oh,
they're
my
very helpful.
God.
I just, think they're kind of silly.
I feel as though maybe this is unfair to my my fellow countrymen and women, but I feel like I can detect an American when I read a video game review like that. In this game, I play as a male character. I'm a creature, so I'm not person. What did you say? I believe something?
Go back to that description. Basically, you, in what you believe is a redacted world until a strange and powerful redacted reveals to him the existence of a mysterious third redacted.
I'm living in a kind of world, a happy world, and then there's a third dimension. Is this Fez?
This is Fez.
I was so lost. So it's a 2D to 3D.
Yeah.
I believe it's a 2D world, and then the gem, the magic golden block.
Yeah, I'll read the unredacted version. So it says, no, that's the wrong one. This has been released in so many platforms. Here we go. In Fez, you play as Gomez, a 2D creature living in what he believes is a 2D world until a strange and mysterious artifact reveals to him the existence of a mysterious third dimension.
And the controversy must be the creator, surely.
Yes. I have a feeling that a lot of this game is boring and deserves a 0, are really animosity for Phil Fish.
Maybe the what was I going to say? The person who wrote that is just Jonathan Blow, and he's just in the battle of the indie game movie people.
Could be. Phil Fish was such like a controversial figure for a little bit. Kind of too bad that his personality kind of overtook the strengths of the game in the minds of many players.
Yeah, gamers get caught up in that stuff and like a self-righteous indictment of a person. I think we lost the ability to see what Phil's second, third, fourth, maybe even 10th game would be like, because that was a heck of a start. And so we all know the sophomoric effort can either fall flat or outdo. And I would love, wouldn't a Fez 2 be so great?
He had announced Fez 2 at one point, but he got so much harassment on Twitter that he was just like, whatever, I'm canceling it.
This is for people who want mental health. I love how I'm here to pay money for games, not mental health. How dare you? Mm-hmm. All right. I'm feeling good going into the holiday season. I'm feeling primed.
Excellent. Well, we'll reconvene next week for our Christmas show.
All right.
Have to do something seasonally appropriate. All right. Well, catch you later. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.